100 years ago, the Virginia Writers Club. The Virginia Writers Club filled a void. From pre-Civil War till the 1920s, the South was, according to a newspaper man, H.L. Macon, almost as sterile artistically, intellectually, culturally as the Sahara Desert. A movement had begun as World War I was winding down to do something about that criticism, and with famous writers such as James Branch Cabell, Ellen Glasgow, and others, Richmond changed from being an artistic desert to a literary renaissance center of the South and of the nation. Organized November 29, 1918, Professor of Sociology Dr. Ori Latham Hatcher invited over for tea Mr. James Branch Cabell and a handful of others to form a writers' club. The goal was the desire to make Richmond an influence in the world of letters and to line it up with other literary centers of the country. Richmond and its environs writers, professional and amateur, made up the membership of the club. Club membership required an interest in writing and at least one original published work. And the first president of the club, Mr. James Branch Cabell. During the years when he was interested in the club, he published Beyond Life and Jurgen in 1919. The one that made him the most famous was Jurgen. Another writer of note was Pulitzer Prize-winning author Ellen Glasgow. She never joined the club, but she did attend meetings, and when she did, she would occasionally bring with her another celebrity author from out of town that happened to be a guest in her home. But the true conundrum is the address of the first meeting, 10 Brook Road, Richmond, Virginia. For there is not now, nor has there ever been, such an address in Richmond. Poe had been dead for quite some time before the start of the club. James Branch Cabell's grandfather, Robert Cabell, was a schoolmate of Poe's and grew to be an admirer of Poe's works. But the elder Cabell thought that at age 8, James was too young to read Poe and advised against his reading Poe until he was older, which predictably spurred James to read all of Poe's works. Poe was a staff writer, critic, and within a few months of being rehired as the editor of the Southern Literary Messenger, had an impact on another literary magazine, The Reviewer. The Reviewer was spawned by the Writers Club and was a small literary magazine published from 1921 till 1925 at a residence that is still standing on North Harrison Street next to the VCU Monroe campus in Richmond. It was started by Emily Tapscott Clark and others, including Margaret Freeman, who would later become James Branch Cabell's second wife. In 1925, it moved to Chapel Hill, North Carolina. In 1926, it moved again to Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas, and was absorbed by the Southwest Review, which is still published today by SMU. There are many people resting at Hollywood Cemetery. Within easy walking distance from one another are James Branch Cabell and Ellen Glasgow. The Ellen Glasgow House, and Ellen Glasgow herself. The ninth of 10 children, Ellen Glasgow was born April 22nd, 1873. Her father was an industrialist with the Tredegar Ironworks, and her mother was part of Virginia aristocracy. She felt isolated, and losing her hearing at 16 only added to her loneliness. She retreated to her books and began to write at the age of 18. She had started on 2 novels, but destroyed most of her work at age 20 following the death of her mother in 1893. 4 years after her death, Ellen published her first novel, Descendant, followed by 18 more novels, a collection of stories, an autobiography, and other works often focusing on the oppression of Southern women. She was an extreme lover of dogs, with the Richmond SPCA being named after her. She wrote every day, read the paper on weekends, and followed the stock market. Her devoted and intimate friend, James Branch Cabell, assisted her with her work as she was dying, and he had no idea what was said about him and her autobiography. For in his essay, speaks with candor of a great lady, he referred to her autobiography. I did not encounter, of course, quite the personage whom depicted in Ellen Glasgow's autobiography, that beautiful and wise volume which contains a great deal of her very best fiction.